Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Geek Pit. I'm Matt Dunphy, Senior Systems Director at EMC. I want to jump into a real quick demo on XtremIO. XtremIO is literally the fastest growing storage product to ever come out of EMC and arguably ever to hit the industry. It's that way for some very specific reasons. One, for the architecture. Two, for the simplicity of the interface, which I'm going to show you here momentarily. And third, for the advanced data services that exist within this product that allow you to pack a whole lot of punch into a very small footprint. So we'll jump right into it. Let's take a look at the interface here. As soon as this opens up, I'm going to give you a little bit of a sneak peek into the dashboard, and then we'll talk about each of the panes individually. But the dashboard immediately shows up, and as a systems administrator of the past, it's extremely powerful. It gives you the things that you care about the most when you first log in. You get to see how much storage efficiency you're receiving based off of the advanced data services that exist. Things like thin provisioning, things like deduplication, things like compression, and even encryption. We get to see those right out of the gate. So how is the array performing as it relates to these advanced services and the workloads that it's supporting? In this case, 28-to-1 deduplication. By the way, that's not uncommon. As a matter of fact, out of all the Xbricks we've sold to date, over 500 of them, we're seeing roughly 5-to-1 on average across that entire customer set. So very powerful, and in many cases we've seen 20-to-1 depending on the workload and the application. But it gives you your deduplication ratios, gives you your savings on thin provisioning, and then your overall volume capacity as it's virtually been allocated, and then clearly your physical capacity. Cool thing about XtremIO, it starts as small as 5 terabytes in a single Xbrick, or up to 10 or 20 terabytes in a single Xbrick, depending on how much you need. And what is extremely unique is it's able to scale horizontally. So as you need more performance, as you need more capacity, as you need more compute and network bandwidth, we can support adding additional Xbricks horizontally, but all operating under one memory space, under one pool or volume of storage to be able to provision out to various services or workloads and applications. On the right, we get to view performance. I'll jump into that in a minute. And then on the left, we see the state of our hardware and then any associated alerts that we might, as administrators, need to tackle. But let's take a quick look at performance. We've got a really cool speedometer here, giving us right now bandwidth. We can also take a look at IOPS. We can also take a look at latency. Now, what you might notice here is we're not measuring latency on milliseconds. We're actually measuring it on microseconds. Again, traditionally not even something thought of in traditional storage platforms, but that is how powerful the performance is in XtremIO, taking advantage of flash. And then if we wanted to take a look at something besides volumes, we could look at our initiator groups, which are typically associated with host or VMware clusters, and then our block size and see what kind of block sizes are being supported and provided out of Xtreme. And then on the bottom, we get our historical trend. So if we want to look over the last hour, if we want to look over the last 6 hours, or if we look over the last few days, we can be able to capture any events that have taken place that we either need to investigate or just say, hey, we just added a new virtual machine or we added an entirely new VDI environment. What's been the workload effect that that has had on XtremIO? Now let's drill into a little bit further. Let's take a look at the hardware. One of the coolest things I think everybody could agree with is being able to visually see our hardware, both in the front and even better on the back, all without having to walk into the data center. It's all real time, it's all live, and as we mouse over, you can get the current state of the various modules and components. Very slick. Now, my personal favorite is the ability to see our cable connectivity. No longer the spaghetti mess that we had to support in the past. It's very simple, and just to make sure that we don't have any issues and we have everything cabled right, it gives us a map of how everything's cabled. And then as we, again, mouse over, those various wires are highlighted and we can start to pinpoint exactly where things are connected. Very powerful in the hardware, very slick. We can also take a look at alerts and events, very straightforward. We can capture the current state of our system. And then if there's something very specific that we wanted to take a look at, for example, we added a new application and we want to see what that application is driving in the way of workload to this system, we can create our own event, our own alert monitor, and we could take a look in whatever format we'd like, a particular host, a particular performance metric, and now it'll show up. It takes a little bit to load the data because it's real time, but we can immediately start to see the workload that's being supported out of that particular metric across that particular initiator that's associated with an ESX host. There's not much more left, so I'm going to jump into administration. You don't typically mess with administration after the initial installation where you want to set up your iSCSI and fiber channel interfaces, and then anything associated with the cluster. Say you want to add another brick down the road or expand capacity, here's where you would recognize and perform those operations. And then lastly, the only thing really left to do in the interface is configuration. And if you're like me and you've managed storage in the past, you'll love the metas, the hypers, the disk groups, the volume groups, the RAID groups, whatever terminology you want to use, name your vendor. They all use the same form of creating volumes out of underlying disk drives. None of that exists with XtremIO. You have volumes, you have initiators. Those initiators associated, again, with servers that it can exist in a cluster. And if we click on any of these, we can see the relationship that exists. If there was no relationship, there'd be no blue line. But now we can very quickly identify if that volume is visible and accessible to that host or to that application. Very slick. And if we wanted to add additional capacity, here's where we would do it. What I think is really cool is we can add multiple volumes at one time. Very rarely, based off of best practices, would we want to add just one volume to a single host, especially with ESX. Maybe we would add 3. Maybe we want to call these GeekPit. I don't know why you ever would, but hey, you never know. And we'll make them 100 gig in size. Click OK, and boom, all those volumes are created. Click Finish. They show up on the left, and we can immediately now associate those to the host. Very simple, very easy. That's it. There's not much to the interface. Why? Because it's a very powerful technology that was architected from the ground up to take advantage of today's technologies. Today's technology in flash, today's technologies in thin provisioning and dedupe, even in compression and encryption, all of which are always on, always exist within the storage platform without any tuning, without any tweaking, without any intervention. Thank you very much. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of sense of the capabilities existent in Xtreme. I look forward to seeing Xtreme exist in your environment and hearing the success you're having with this product. Thank you very much. We'll catch you next time.